What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We've finally done it. Holy shit, I can't believe it. Sorry for the weak language so soon, but holy crap. I have to do a manual transition, and I can't believe I nailed the timing. So sweet. Let's go ahead and get right on with it, man. We got a banger of a program for you guys today. We still see that everybody's still building up in the chats over at Rokfin and on YouTube. Looks like somebody has fired off early with the support over on Rokfin. Dang, we really appreciate that. Let's go ahead and start you out. Harmon. Oh my goodness. Harmon, we appreciate you, my friend. The man, the myth, the legend, with the massive $5 tip. We appreciate you. All of the support is going towards making this program better, starting with a new computer setup, which we are going to be discussing again with Andrew B here very soon. Got to get that on the calendar for y'all, as well as the rest of these shows on a regular calendar. Now that I'm starting to figure out my schedule more, it's becoming easier to get this navigated, start things on time, be a little bit more regular for you guys. And I would really appreciate if you guys, even if you can't support monetarily, if you could smash that like button on both platforms. That would be huge. It's free. It does help. Even though we are throttled by algorithms on YouTube, smashing that like does help out. So the other thing that's massive, guys, is to share the show. This is an open panel, and I want to get this as diverse as possible with many different points of view. So if you guys could share it with your friends, family, people who, either don't know the truth, are trying to figure out the truth, or people who may not even have any interest. Let's let them make the decision, right? Send them this way. Let's see if we can build this thing. So I appreciate all the support that you guys do give. So, like I said, I'm going to let that build up here for just a moment. Let's go ahead and get back into my, whatever the heck it was I was just doing. Fire away. I'm going to go ahead and just cover a little bit. Then we'll do a shout out once we've given people a chance to go ahead and funnel in here to give this show some momentum. And then we will drop the link and let people join the show. This is the True Earth debate. Okay, so with that, it's going to be really important that we do keep in mind a few things. Now, we do have some rules that we have recently initiated. So with that, they're going to be pretty straightforward. We have number one, don't be an arse. All right, that means no name calling, personal attacks. Attack the argument. Have fun with it, right? But don't be a bully, and definitely don't do all the things that entail being an arsehole. Okay, so number two is going to be raise the hand. There's going to be a new feature that we have. It's not new, but I just found out about it, and you can click it. It's the hand raise. Boom, raise your hand before you interrupt somebody. That way we can keep smooth dialogue. Okay. And number three, don't be a dead horse if you're making a point, so that somebody doesn't have to be forced to like raise their hand and then me have to interrupt for them. You can go ahead and make your points, and then we can move on to the next point. Don't be a dead horse, right? And then number four, my show, my verdict. This is my show. It's very dynamic. It's liable to change on the dime. So depending on the situations that do arise, I may be liable to interject a rule or two. So don't know what those are. Haven't, not going to sit here and say that I've conceived every possible scenario. So whatever comes up, just know it is dynamic, evolving, and it's up to me because it's my program. So if you don't like it, you can leave it, and that's just fine. But we appreciate everybody who does stay. Just follow the rules. All right. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and where are we? Boom. Okay. So a little thumbnail. Just so for anybody who's curious, I do make all these thumbnails. It's pretty arduous having to do all the work to create these. It's pretty fun. I'm just kidding. AI does it all for me. So you can make really cool art too by just putting in some cool prompts. So it is pretty effortless. I do think it probably steals money from people who work hard to create their craft. But hey, I'm working with limited resources, so I will use what I need to. No hate here. But anyway, while I have this up, it's going to give me a chance to actually pull up what I really need to do. And that's some current events. We have some cool things that are happening in. Where is it? There we go. In space news, right over in Clown World. So let me go ahead and get that up for you guys. All right, taking just a bit of time. Excuse me. All right. Let me go ahead and where'd it go? All right. Envisioning. This one's great. Space news. This came out February 21st, so not long ago at all. Let me go ahead and where the heck is it? Share screen. Boom. And of course, we're going to need to adjust it just a bit. It can never just be right. No worries, guys. All right. It's the best show on the internet right now. You can believe it. All right. Jeez, that sucks. Hold on. All right, that looks a little bit better. Okay. Didn't want to look at all janky. What can I say? So I'm going to go ahead and cover this, then we'll go ahead and do our shout out. And pretty interesting stuff happening over in Clown World, envisioning the next generation of space telescopes. And I believe this is the right one. Oh, no, this was not the right one, actually. This was NASA saying, give us more money. Oh, well. It wasn't that interesting. That's why I didn't really want to give this one particularly a cover, but somehow it's still in my draft. So, whoops. Okay, awesome. Off to a great start. Whatever, we'll cover it anyway. You know that really expensive space telescope that we just did, the James Webb? Well, now due to how well it's working or not working, depending on how you look at it, it's been debunking the entire space model, if you will. Telescope formally started science operations last July after completing 6 months of post-launch commissioning. Space telescope was meaning this article dragged on too much. That's why I really didn't want to cover it. Let me see if I get to the meat of it just real quick. Nothing but good news. Speech opened in conference January 9th. It's really better than we expected. It ranges from its sensitivity instruments to the lifetime. It's now expected to be at least 20 years based on the amount of propellant. Okay, so they're just talking it up. Yeah, this sucks, man. Basically, they go on to say that they're going to spend a whole bunch more money to create 2 more of these really expensive telescopes that give us nothing but digital imaging. Starting off with the Hubble, of course. I know there's difference of opinions on that, but hey, welcome to the show, right? Super funny there. Let me go ahead and pull up the real thing I wanted to cover. Get that out of there. Ew. All right. April Fools, guys. There we go. That's why I didn't get it. It's 2 lines of a link. Jesus. Okay. This is the right one. Perfect. May need to go full screen for that. That's pretty small, but what can we do? All right. So this is imagingresource.com. Go figure. Talking about the James Webb telescope. Locates ancient massive galaxies that disrupt the current cosmological theory. No. It wasn't when the 97% of the mass wasn't working out for their gravitational equation. Okay. There's lots wrong with it, but all right. Primary goals was to further humanity's understanding of the ancient universe. Sometimes to expand our understanding, we must thoroughly disrupt it first. So for all you science people out there who are like, we can't just disrupt physics off of a few observations or off of a single observation or experiment. Yes, we can, and we absolutely do. All right, so a new study by the International Team of astrophysicists has discovered mysterious objects and images captured by the web, including 6 potential galaxies. And if they are galaxies, they are so massive and old that the current cosmological theory cannot explain their existence. Okay. So basically, the article goes on to say you can go check it out yourself. Let me go ahead and post it in the links for anybody who wants to. You probably don't because it's really lame. But just to kind of show you, even in their own theory, they're getting ready to shake things up because now they're finding these supermassive galaxies way far away. Which, if we're looking at the Big Bang theory, right, then they would think that the further away they got from us, that the galaxies would be younger and smaller looking. Especially because we're looking at things that are really, really old the further back we get. And yet, that's not what they're finding. They're finding very rich, very full galaxies. Newly observed prospect galaxies aren't the oldest spotted yet, as scientists have previously identified galaxies that likely formed around 350 million years after the Big Bang, still hanging on to it. But, but the newly spotted galaxies are significantly larger than those ones. Okay, so we're just focusing on the 6 big ones here. This is challenging everything, right? They're going to try to chalk it up to gravitation, to gravity. Once again, let's invoke some magic. Researchers, sorry. Researchers must do more work to confirm that the galaxies are in fact galaxies and are as large as they appear. Gravitational lensing, which is when a huge amount of matter in space warps the light ad hoc from objects behind it. It can warp light and make measurements challenging or impossible. You decide. So that's all I wanted to read of this. Just really funny how they're having to really just shake up everything. Well, I think I actually skipped over the main part of it. Blah blah blah. Yeah, the stellar mass. Okay, research describes that one of the candidate galaxies has a possible stellar mass of about 1,011 solar masses, whatever the hell that means. If this mass is verified by spectroscopy, I don't know why you're talking to us if you haven't done that. The stellar mass density would be much higher than anticipated from previous studies based on the rest of the frame ultraviolet selected samples. So they're like, what the hell is this? This is super dense. More Goose Chase. Here we have the actual James Webb Telescope in all its glory. Oh, all right. Just kidding. That is obviously an artist rendition, which is really all we ever get of these satellites, it seems. All right. Enough of that. We've given people enough time to get on in. Let's do a quick shout out. Where are we at? Boom. Bring up the main page, the main frame. All right. Here we go. Taking a look over at the YouTube. First and foremost, we got Mark Gregory, James Ostrom, Chicago artist, Three Fingers. What is up? Admiral Dickie Bird. Good morning for you. It is good night for me. 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for us Floridians. Jeremy Bird. What is up? Smash that like button. Absolutely, Admiral. Thank you. By the way, I am looking for more moderators for you regulars. If you would like to be modded up and I'm familiar with you, then feel free to shout out in the comments, and I will do so because I am definitely lacking in that department. Mojo Shop, what is up, my friend? Excuse me. And Rethink Inc. Alrighty. Let's go ahead and shout out the Rokfin. Much love, guys. Appreciate you all being here, tuning in. It wouldn't be a very exciting show without a dynamic audience. All right. Nuba, watching from the car, we appreciate you. Of course, Harmon, we again appreciate the $5 tip. And Andrew B., the remainder of you I cannot see, but if you'd like, feel free to shout out in the comments over on the Rokfin, then we can see you and shout you out. All right. With that, let's go ahead and cover maybe one last thing, and then we'll introduce the panel. All right, real quick, actually, let me get these mods. All right, James, you can mod, but you got to be nice. All right. You can be one. Give me that power. Absolutely. But be careful. It is intoxicating. All right. You guys are modded up. Fantastic. Firm but fair. Absolutely. We just don't want an excessive amount of shit talk in the comment section, right? Whoa. What the heck was that? I don't know how I got a. Oh, it's, of course, buy me a coffee. We got a shout out. Let me go ahead and pull that up. Interrupted the whole show as promised. I haven't plugged myself at all, but we really appreciate you guys with the monetary support. There are actually 3 ways to support the channel currently. The first way is my favorite way because it supports not only me, but all the other content creators here on YouTube. It is going to be the Rokfin, right? So if you guys who are already over on Rokfin, we really appreciate you. Those who have not, feel free to jump on over. There is a link in the description below. And if you sign up, you can do a free subscription, of course, and get all the free content. But there is tons of premium content from not only myself, but content creators like Jaronism, who's starting to go primarily paid content, which is that's awesome. He's been in the game for quite a while, quite a legend. So to get his stuff, you're gonna need to pay just a little bit. Truth should not, unfortunately, be free because truth is really hard work, right? And we're all out here working. So you got to support what you like or else it goes away. And not only will you be supporting me, Jaronism, Karen B, Mellow Dome, but tons and tons of other truth seekers, truth creator, content creators, getting all tongue twisted. All right. So we definitely appreciate that. And then we also appreciate buy me a coffee. That is what our friend has just went and done. So let me go ahead and finish getting that pulled up. You do get the option to leave a message, which is really cool. So you guys can have your message read by yours truly. I'm going to assume that this is Mr. Bird. We appreciate you with the, oh my goodness, massive amount of coffee I will be drinking. Wow. Man, we really appreciate that. Seriously, I can't thank you enough. $50 donation there, ladies and gentlemen. Huge shout out to Jeremy Bird. I'm assuming that's Admiral Bird, but if I'm wrong, feel free to correct me in the comment. I know we don't do it for clout, but I will still shout you out. So we definitely appreciate you. All right, let the band hammers fall around. Oh my goodness. All right. All right, so that is the other way to go ahead and support the show. Really awesome there. We appreciate that, Jeremy Bird. And then we also have MrTribune Cash App. This way is also really cool. It allows me to keep 100% of the donation, and I will read your chat live that you send me your message, unless you specify not to or whatever, for whatever reason. But most people have something they want me to read. So I will go ahead and do that for you. And if you're catching the show afterwards, I'll do it on the next live. All good friends, but we appreciate you. That's enough of the shameless plugging. Oh, one last thing. This one's just really cool and provides something really good to the FE community. The Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. Go ahead and get yours today. Go to the Google or Apple store. Type in your referral code Tribune so they know who sent you over there. It's like a couple bucks. And you can get bypassing all of the YouTube and Google algorithms to find flat earth truth content, find other truthers with the friend finder, and more. To find out all the features the app offers, feel free to download today. All right. That is enough of that, guys. I really appreciate it. Let's go ahead and we'll cover just one last thing, and then I'm gonna drop a link for the open panel, and we're gonna start having a lot of fun with this. So we go ahead and close out that James Webb Telescope. We don't need that crap anymore. That exhausting article is exhausting to get through. But one of the reasons I wanted to bring that up is because these people, these anti-flat earthers who come in these types of things, will act like the science is so sure on cosmology and everything. But yet you point out just simple things, simple problems and contradictions, and you'll find that it falls apart rather quickly. So one of those contradictions is going to be this right here, something that I found actually a couple months back, but I made a short little clip about it. But I'll go ahead and retouch on it here because it's actually really funny how they slipped on this. So let me go ahead. Where is the screen share? It's the full screen share this time so we can actually see the whole article. Oh, just gotta adjust it just a little bit. Just a tad. Just a second, guys. All right, we're there. We're there. Adjusting. Don't leave. Just kidding. You guys aren't going anywhere. All right. We're here. Boom. Earth spinning faster than ever. All right. This article came out, just some background. This article came out August 7th. It posted 8 a.m. Earth spinning faster than ever has been increasing, making June 29th the shortest day ever recorded since the introduction of the atomic clock. Scientists have some ideas why. Now, it goes on to tell you some BS about how, the Earth spins on its axis once every 24 hours, right? Actually, no. So there goes all those 15-degree perfect rotation arguments that they use. Bullshit. We'll go ahead and move on. The length of each day varies widely by a few milliseconds according to the International Earth Rotation and Reference System Services, the IERS, which is responsible for maintaining global time and reference time standards. Today was 23 hours and 59 minutes. Okay, and then they do some milliseconds. Okay, whatever. So the point being, of course, again, that Earth is spinning faster than ever, and here's why. So, again, spinning faster, that's going to give us, obviously, shorter days, shorter and shorter days. And then let me go ahead and pull up this other article. Throw up the transition for you. This will take me just another second. Bye-bye, old. Out with the old, in with the new, as they say. All right, this one is going to be from Science Alert. Alert. There's science afoot. Okay. This one is like, what a freaking doozy that we have here. From Science Alert, Earth's days are mysteriously getting longer, scientists say. This is from August 8th, the next day. Excuse me. Atomic clocks combined with precise astronomical measurements have revealed that the length of day is suddenly getting longer, and scientists don't know why. Well, suddenly as in one day, because we just had an article from the 7th. Okay, this has critical impacts, not just on timekeeping, but also on things like GPS and other technologies that govern our modern life. Now, I wonder why it would have effect on that. They were going to say something with like the rotation of the Earth or whatever. I'm obviously arguing from incredulity here, but I'm curious to see what that is. I think if there are fluctuations in the spinning of the sky, that would mean something probably magnetic is happening to affect the GPS. But that's just my opinion. Okay, over the past few decades, Earth's rotation around its axis, which determines how long the day is, has been speeding up. The trend has been making our days shorter, and in fact, on June 22nd, we set a record for the shortest day over the half century or so. But despite this record, we're having a steady speed up, which is currently switched to a slowdown. So whoopsie daisy, Days are getting longer again. And the reason is so far a mystery. So this doesn't even make sense, right? It doesn't even make sense at all because they're just talking about having the shortest day that we had. And now all of a sudden it's getting longer again. And it's a complete mystery. Science has no idea why. Again, this completely throws into doubt the idea that, even the sun moving across our sky at that even 15 degrees per hour has to be complete bullshit, right? There has to be something else going on, slight changes. Um, so this is just one of many contradictions. They'll just go back and forth. I bet in a couple months they'll come out with another article and they'll say it's speeding up again. And it's the same thing like with the meteorites. They just keep us on our toes with these articles. But enough of that. As fun as fun as that is, there's about a million articles that we can go through just making fun of it. And we definitely appreciate that. But let's go ahead and get to the meat of it, the True Earth debate, the open panel. Got to go ahead and get you guys the link. So this will take me just a second. So boom. Let's generate this meeting. And folks, feel free to jump on in right away because if you don't, then it kicks me and I have to start a whole new meeting and it's a pain in the ass. So help me, help you, help the audience, help everyone. Go ahead and get on in here and let's have a conversation. Whether you're a flat earther, a globe earther, a concaver, it doesn't really matter. In fact, the more dynamic the panel, the better. All right. Almost got it. Got the link copied. Just waiting for my camera to show up. Okay. And it's not wanting to show up. There it is. Okay, perfect. Perfect. Okay. So let's go ahead and get my beautiful mug back over there. By the way, folks, shout out to the Melodome for the most comfortable shirt in the world. Sporting it once again. Melodome, mellow vibes. Awesome. Gonna have a lot of fun in the coming trivia. I think we're shooting for April, but it is going to be me versus the legend, the OG, Jaronism. And I said this in his comments on his live section that obviously nothing is going to bring me more joy than toppling the Titan himself in Truth or Trivia. So be sure to check that out when they announce that. It's going to be a lot of fun. Okay, where was I? Posting this link for you guys. Sorry for the hold up. All right, first to the YouTube. Boom. If anybody has a trouble joining the link, feel free to get it one of the mods. This stuff is pretty easy to use. It's just Google. So you should be able to click the link and use it. If not, try getting the app. Again, really, really simple. Let's go ahead and paste it up. All right. Mr. Ostrom, welcome to the show, my friend. How did I know it was you?
Well, I missed you the other night.
Yeah, I did. So I had some technical issues, and then I had some family issues, and so it ended up getting postponed 14 hours to the next day. So you did miss
Can,
us.
can, can you hear me pretty well?
Yeah, I can hear you great.
Okay. I got a little bit of echo. I am going to see.
Well, you're absolutely perfect on our end.
Okay. I hear you when you talk, and then I hear a little bit of what you said like 5 or 6 seconds ago. But as long as you can hear me, it's fine.
Yeah, no worries. Are you listening from the Google Meet or are you listening from the YouTube?
YouTube.
That's the issue. Turn off the YouTube and listen from the Google Meet,
Okay.
and then you'll be right on time.
I'll do that. Give me a second.
Alrighty. While he's doing that, let me mod up Mr. Three Fingers. I just saw your chat. You may be modded, my friend. Jeremy Bird and Admiral Bird are two different people, and I've made the confusion again. That's hilarious. My bad. Much love, though. Super funny. All right. So I wonder how long into the show it'll take for the Globers to decide to join. Hopefully, not not too long, because it's not much of a debate without what's the word I'm looking for? Without the competition. It's not the word it was, but it's the word I settled on. Didn't feel like thinking about it. What are you gonna do? This is what happens when you take a lot of THC. So, not that I'd preach against it. It's obviously very healthy, but because we are still on YouTube, obviously don't do any drugs. Not legal advice, financial advice, spiritual advice, cosmological advice, whatever you want to call it. Call for zero. Welcome to the show, my friend. You are muted.
Hi, Tribune. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Really good. Yeah, very, very well. And thanks for handling my refraction question last week.
Oh, nice.
That was cool. That was what I wanted to know. And like you said, it just doesn't make sense to you or me, as described with the bending and the gradient and all that stuff. And I do my flat Earth research on the ground, on the ocean, on lakes, desert. But today, if you want to take maybe 10 minutes, I'd like to talk a little bit about the sun.
Fire away.
Yeah, and if you remember, just as the last stream closed, we started to get into a resistance theory, that heat comes from resistance, and that was one explanation for like lava, like perhaps iron and crystal and rock and electric charge and heat buildup and lava, that kind of thing.
Right.
And then I followed that up with, okay, since discovering Mandela effect and flat Earth in 2019, I've come to the conclusion that the only way to really get a good footing is to flush the knowledge that's been presented, the history, the science, just flush it and start with givens and then build to likely givens, because I think that's the only way to go. Because if you're building on a supposition of maybe this, by the time you get to the third one, you probably have no chance of surviving. So anyways, I have it down to a creator is one, because we're here, and number two, water is wet. And I'm just building on that. Honestly, I flushed it all. And today I'm looking at the sun. And if you look at the sun, we have a good idea what it does, back and forth through the tropics, our seasons, the day, the 24-hour day, more or less. And we know that it's warm, because as we start to be able to see it in the morning, we feel the heat. At high noon, it's definitely really hot. And as it goes away, it gets cooler. So the sun is putting out heat. It looks round, could be a ball, could be a projection. I don't know, but we know it's warm. So tying resistance into that, I'm thinking there's some sort of resistance factor or issue involved in all of this. And another given is it maintains about the same temperature. So we're not talking about burning gas in a vacuum over a billion years, because that's not going to hold the same temperature. It more or less holds the same brightness and same temperature. So there's a consistent nature to it. And we do know that it moves at a fairly consistent speed as well. So we have that consistent speed. We have some sort of resistance, which I'm thinking is aether, uh, like resistance or friction as it moves. And if it moves at a steady rate, it's going to maintain a steady temperature more or less. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know. I don't know if it's solid, but I'm just trying to put two and two together. And then you can look at like solar flares. It seems like there's some sort of popping going on there. I'm thinking that perhaps that is impurities in the atmosphere. You got this hot object or thing or whatever it is moving at a consistent speed at a consistent temperature. It hits an impurity, like if you're welding or something pop, if you hit some kind of carbon or some irregularity in the metal. So I think that's what that is. So I just want to like kind of put that on the table as a possibility, or maybe a strong possibility. And like I said, I don't know if it's solid. I heard some very, very big prominent people in the flat earth community say that they think it's a magnifying glass focal point, which it could be, but I'm just trying to like build from my givens. I just wanted to present that. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Waterworld, I'm sorry I muted you. It's just there was an echo, but when no one else is talking, it should be fine. So whenever you want to speak, feel free to unmute yourself, and everybody will shut up. Welcome to the show, by the way. Welcome back, I should say. Just to respond real briefly, and then I'll let you speak, Waterworld, because I see you wanting to click there. um, as far as like what I think about the sun, I'm actually, and it is based on a big assumption, and it's on an assumption that a certain video is real, and I'm assuming that the video is real, because of like the source is just a cell phone cam. So basically, this actually was on the Globebusters. This is where I first saw it, and I ended up making a little short about it on TikTok that did fairly well. And it was the scene where it looked like there was like a droplet of black or something, or the sun was like deforming, doing something really, really weird. Um, and you couldn't really describe it or explain it in the term of with the thought of the sun being solid in my mind. So I tend to think that it's some sort of um maybe some plasma ball. Like maybe there is some truth in mainstream science and that it is a ball of plasma, but it's just not a ball of gas, burning in a vacuum, but a ball. Not to sound redundant, there was also another thing I seen. I can't remember who did it, but they actually made like a little plasma ball inside a container, and then they were able to make it rotate using magnets, I believe. And so that's kind of what I'm thinking may be the sun, but obviously we're still speculating. I'm with you in that we should definitely try to like prove out each step of what our whatever the presupposition would be. That way we can deal with minimal presuppositions. But the sun and other celestial things is pretty difficult because like how the hell can we get up there to test it? The closest thing we could do is and this is where some globers have some credit, is like, when it comes to things like that, we would do well to come up with some sort of working model that we could demonstrate that would be simpler than their model. And supposedly that does exist in the new Tychonic model, but if we could actually like demonstrate that and then actually demonstrate the physics behind it, we would have a huge one up on the scientific community, or so-called clown world pseudoscience community. Waterworld, go ahead and take it away, my friend.
Yeah, I just find it. Can you hear me okay? Good. I just find it fascinating that we try to match what the globe community says it's in the sky. They're so positive what's up there. The sun's 93 to 94 million miles away. I guess in January it's closest, farthest away in July, and it transmits heat over 93 million miles through nothing. You need to have molecules to be able to transmit heat. There's no heat through the vacuum of outer space 93 million miles away. So we basically, and it's not our fault because we weren't alive, but we basically let them hijack, starting with Newton, hijack, what the sun is. And if you go back, you'll see that the beginners of the sun said that we were 3 million miles away, 10 million, and I think one even said we were 104 million miles away. So everything's kind of been hijacked and everything's been a lie. But, we've been lied to since we were 5 years old. And it's kind of hard to get past those lies. So I just look at the sun as this: moves approximately 15 degrees per hour. It's a little bit closer to us in the northern latitudes in the summer, farther away in the winter. Hotter in Australia in January, cooler up here I shouldn't say up here, over here in North America, and it gives us heat and it gives us light. And from there, I just kind of go, okay. And I know not everybody shares my feelings about this, but Genesis 1:16-17 says God placed two great lights in the sky: the greater light, the sun; the lesser light, the moon and the stars. And I just kind of let it go at that. Some people say the sun is inside the firmament. Some people say it's outside the firmament. Some people say it's inside the firmament. I really don't care. I just know here on Earth, here in this world, we measure flat, and we measure topographical, and we know we don't move throughout the universe because of Michelson-Morley, and because of every experiment since then says the motion of the Earth around the sun is nil. So I just kind of look at it. That's why Globers always go to the sky, because they go to the celestial to prove the terrestrial, because they can't prove the terrestrial, so they go to the sky, and they think they have a leg to stand on.
Amen to that. When you misconstrue, beg the question, obfuscate, employ all the other logical fallacies that they constantly have to employ to mute you again, to hold their position, then it should be pretty obvious to anyone with, cognitive thinking faculties to be able to make a less biased decision, I would say. And the thing that I can't stand is when we get approached and like we don't understand the model, like we weren't educated, quote unquote, on the same exact thing that everybody else was. I actually had a really high grade in high school on earth space science specifically. I was fascinated with it. Consider myself a nerd, really. And so I knew, I was doing well on all the tests, and, knew about the asteroid belt and all that. And on the trivia question, just to throw this out there, you were wrong on the Kuiper belt. If that's a different belt, Jaron, if you happen to be watching that, that's why you were wrong on that question. You were thinking of the asteroid belt. So, any case, yeah, the whole system is dealing with ridiculous cosmological distances that cannot be verified, that you can adjust. Because again, nobody can check the mass. Their redshift, Harmon, awesome. The redshift is starting to debunk their theories about expansion, and the Big Bang theory. So now they're being faced with another catch-22 that they're going to soon have to do another split down. So there's going to be another debate going on about whether they should have done that or they should have went the other way, and all that's going to be a red herring. Excuse me. Because space is fake. So Harmon, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hi, how you doing?
Doing fantastic.
Can you see me?
Oh yeah, we can see you. Like your hat.
Hi,
All right.
Harmon. How you doing?
Oh, thank you.
Yuck.
Well, I wanted to ask you guys, okay, you finished with that subject? There's a lot of us, I've seen through the years, copy like what the Glober's done. They just believe something, so they regurgitate it, keep saying it. You could say it's my opinion, and that's perfectly fine, but when people don't do it, I'll give you guys one question. How many of you believe that the moon casts a cold light?
Well, all I know is what I've seen from secondhand tests.
Okay,
So
I'll take
I
that.
have to say I don't know, but if the tests are accurate, it does. That's what I'll say on that.
How about you, Water?
I think it casts its own light. I've never done a test on it being a colder or cooler light.
How many? And how about you, Troubling?
I haven't seen a test with all the variables isolated. I tend to think that maybe the Earth isn't just trapping as much heat or maybe something along the lines of what Jaren said, that the shade is just shading you from the elements itself. But I haven't seen all the variables isolated to be able to say that the moon is giving off cold light.
Okay, because I did the test and I took the variables I could think of. So, what would be one of the major variables that you could think of? I'm going to tell you what I did. I'm going to see if you can think of, as a thought exercise. What would be the first thing you'd want to do on that? At what time would you want to do it?
Well,
Time is the important part.
time is the important part. Well, I could have
Yes.
it completely wrong, of course, but what I want to do it is like dead in the middle of wherever. And it's going to depend on the time of year also, because the moon's going to be in different places. But I'd want the moon to be like up direct overhead, like moon noon, if that makes sense.
You got to take it. That's the variables are. You already passed so many variables on that part. You'd have to do it before that. What about you, Water?
I haven't really thought about it. I'm going to be real honest with you. I haven't really thought about it. I love the moon. I know that it's a light that God created in the sky. So I'm gonna defer to you on the.
All right. Okay. What you want to know is when the transition happens. You need to start it during the daytime. You need to have it when it's like 4 o'clock, whatever, when the sun's still up. Okay. And you want to know when the transition happens, if it happens without the moon or not. The transition that it gets warmer underneath the tailgate of or the shade of a lee shade, and or if it waits till the moon comes out. So what I did, I took my truck, went out in the desert here. I live in the Nevada desert. Parked it at 4 o'clock. I got like 6 identical rocks. I put 6 underneath my tailgate in the shade during the daytime, and 6 out in the sun. Of course, it's hotter in the sun and it's cooler in the shade. We know that. You don't have to test it, but I tested it. I did all that. So then I wanted to see when did it transition. The moon wasn't due up till like 10 o'clock that night, another 4 or 5 hours after it got dark. So I wanted to make sure I had that done too. So when the sun, now I think Water knows, I believe that the sun comes from the light. The light comes first, and that's what makes the sun appear. It's apparent through the power of the light. But anyway, so when the sun left and it was still daylight, you know how it's still daylight after the sun leaves, right?
Yeah.
As soon as the sun was out of sight over the mountains, it transitioned. All of a sudden, underneath my tailgate was warmer than the rocks on the outside the tailgate. Well, it was still daylight. So that's a big factor right there. So it's already changed. There's no moon do it for 4 hours. So now it's already cooler underneath my tailgate and warm. It's already warmer underneath my tailgate and now cooler out in the open. So I said, well, that's already blowing the spearmint all the way up. So anyway, so I waited for the moon to come up, and when I waited till it got dark. When it was dark, the bad thing about it is when we charge this light, the ether I call it, no matter even if it was with the light of my phone, it would actually change the temperature at least 1 degree when you lit it up. However, it does that. I don't know. It did it really quick. Anyway, so I got that all done, and so I wanted to take the variable of the shade out of the way, the shelter out of the way, like you were saying, Charlie. So the moon was full moon. I made sure I wanted a full moon coming up, so I'd have a lot of light. And it was at an angle I wanted long enough that it could cast a shadow. My shadow was 15 feet away from my truck. My truck cast a 15-foot shadow, so that was pretty far away from the thing giving the shelter to, like you said, the shade of the truck. You're right, as the truck being a factor. So sure enough, that when the moon came up, I put it underneath the tailgate and out in the moonlight, and it was warmer underneath the tailgate, like everybody shows, right? And then after I got that, so I took all 6 rocks. I put the 6 rocks at the end of the 15-foot shadow of my truck, and I took the other 3 rocks and put them on the outside, just in the moonlight, right outside the shadow truck. They were only maybe 2 feet apart. So what do you think the result with that would be? Now they're both out in the open. One's in the shade of the truck and one isn't.
So, if the theory that Jaron was saying is correct, that the shade is just shading from the elements, then I would think that the rock that's in the shade is going to be a few degrees warmer than the rock that's in the open.
No, they were both the same. They didn't change. Only time they change is when you put them near a object, something to gives it shelter, like underneath of my tailgate of my truck, by a tree, by a ladder, by something. It will affect it and give it that much more shelter. If you take those things that protect shelter and protection away from them, and take that variable away, like you were saying. So I put as long as shadows I can get, and put it there, and there was no difference. So I got it out of it that there is no temperature difference on the moon light. And I've seen no one do that. You got to start in the daytime. The thing is, when you turn your light on at night, and I seen this guy with a ladder who did it about 2 or 3 years ago, and the ladder in his porch and stuff like that. And he had his porch light on, was about 20 feet away. And to him, in his mind, that does have no effect on it. But I found that any light has an effect on it. It lights up whatever this electrical magnetic field you're talking about. It just affects it. So, and from what I came from my conclusion, there is no difference in the moonlight, far as in the shade or out of the shade. It's the same.
Gotcha. Yeah, that would debunk the cold moonlight theory. Call for zero.
See, it just bothers me. Everybody keeps saying that without trying. And they'll tell it in their interviews, and they'll tell the Globers are wrong. They even had this one that they did, the skateboard girl. You remember the skateboard girl that was being interviewed by Dave?
Yeah, the young group, right?
Right. And she's listening, and they say something about that, and he says the moonlight's cold, and she says no, it's not, because I guess she had figured she had done this before. She says it's just you're just being protected from the elements.
Right.
You know, you put it near a place. You got to put it on the open. It doesn't make no difference. And she
Right.
was right. And they turned it. I've always wanted to contact her and tell her, girl, you were right. You know,
You're right.
there is no difference.
Harmon, that's good on you. We appreciate you doing the experiment. I want to hold true to the rules, though. Call for zero has his hand raised politely, so I'm going to go ahead and lower that for you and call on you. Call for zero. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. Hi, Harmon. Yeah, interesting tests there. And when you asked about time of day and, you're thinking about near objects, I think I would consider 4:30 in the morning pretty much the cold of the night. It's when all the heat's dissipated and the sun isn't quite, showing. And I would choose like the center of a football field, very consistent surface, and put the objects out there. Now, I think the issue is how to cover one so it's shaded without influencing it. Like if you put a warm umbrella, like it was in your hand over it, maybe it would be a degree warmer. But I think that's where I would start, would be at the coldest point of the day. That's just how I see it.
You would
I don't see your hand. There it is.
Sorry, give me 1 second. Harmon, go ahead.
Yeah, the deal with the but I'm saying you had to see when it transitions. You have to see when it changes.
Exactly.
That's the important part. You need to see when it changed. And when it changed before the light was gone, that already tells you it's already that factor's already in there. And I was out bigger than a football field. I'm in the middle of a desert, same ground everywhere. I'm talking about, I'm out we got one stoplight area. Trust me, I'm out in the middle of the desert. So it was an open ground more than a football field that I did that on. And you could do it at that time of the night too. I just needed to know when it did transition. Now, to me, no one ever thought of doing the transition. When did the transition happen? And once that's done, it doesn't change. It doesn't care if the moon comes up or now. It doesn't change the temperature of the rocks or the underneath the tailgate or outside the tailgate. When the moon comes up, it didn't change.
Right, and just like the light bulb, when the light bulb turns on or you become exposed to it, you can obviously feel the effects of it. So if the moon is acting like that, but just giving a cold light, then you should expect to see that cold light to happen instantaneous. So we can go ahead
Right.
and, I think that if that experiment's all legit, which I'm not saying you're lying or anything, but this is just something I always
No.
say. If that's obviously repeatable, then I think that's good evidence against the cold moonlight theory. We have our first resident Glober, Ruhif. Welcome to the show. Having a snack on the broadcast. How dare you?
He has a dome.
There's the dome right there. Curvature. No, but seriously though, welcome. Thanks for coming on.
Hi, Jim.
All right, so it's a
Hey, you know what's fun about Ruhef? I saw him for the first time on Troubling's, podcast. About this time at night. It was about a month ago. He was talking to somebody, and when he's not talking, he looks really rational and looks really logical and very normal. But then he opens his mouth and starts talking, and I'm going, okay, light bends around your ball, and you've taken your 5th COVID shot and 23 shots in the last 5.5 months.
Okay,
Love
all
you, Ruhef. Love you lots.
careful.
Sorry, 5.5
We are-
years. 5.5 years.
Love you lots, Ruhef.
We are still on YouTube, Waterworld, so we're just gonna have to mine the medical misinformation, just so you
Yes.
know.
But I
Hey,
have had 23 of those
Ruhef.
things.
Ruhef, I got a present for you. I'm going to mail this to you. I'm
Yeah.
gonna pay the shipping for the ball, and I'm gonna mail it to you. I'm gonna give this because I know you live on the bottom. You live like down here,
Yep.
and I live up here. So I just want you to know that I appreciate the fact that gravity fixes everything because it pushes everything, pulls everything to the middle of the ball. So I'm glad that you're not upside down here, and I'm glad that I'm standing more upright up here, and it's all because of your gravity. So God bless your gravity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh my
But yeah,
God.
sorry. There's a charity thing here called World's Greatest Shave, raising funds for leukemia
Nice.
research.
Oh,
So, yeah.
Very cool.
Hence the yeah.
So
hey,
it's good.
someday over when we're not on YouTube, when we're over on Cosmology Tartaria, we'll talk about leukemia sometime, but not tonight.
Yeah, that's a great subject. The whole things that can be done about cancer conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's awesome. And, selfless acts, guys. That's what it's all about. From a great place. Much love. So we definitely appreciate the gesture there. So, all right. Well, it is a 4v1. Waterworld raised his
Yeah.
hand. True to the rules. Ruhif, did you catch the rules, by the way?
No.
You didn't catch the rules. I'll go
Just
over
got
them
home. I've had a
briefly.
shit day. My car broke down today. Broke down at 10:15, and a tow truck finally arrived at 1:30. Yeah, which is now 2 hours ago. Anyway,
That's ass. That sucks.
it is ass.
We have a system now where people raise their hand so that people don't get interrupted. And then we have another rule that people aren't allowed to beat a dead horse. So there's not going to be very long rants. And sorry, you did raise your hand, but Waterworld raised his hand first. So I'm going to call on him, and then you can go.
No, it's all. I raised it, but then I lowered it again. I want to hear Ruhif talk about his outer space moon of 238,000 miles away.
Excellent. Ruhif,
Okay.
floor is yours.
You can parallax it. Anyone a Kiwi here or something, or in Asia? No one's from New Zealand here, right? Because I would love to do a parallax with someone in New Zealand to get the distance to the moon. I've seen it done a few times, but I would like to do it. And guess what distance it'll give you? Anyone?
How
You'll
many-
get 400,000 Ks.
How many assumptions do you have to have in your equation?
It's just geometry.
For 30 miles.
Waterworld, go ahead.
I like the thought of what special relativity and what general relativity and what science math does. And I know Ruhef, my good friend from Australia, is really big into math, as if math proves anything as far as the ball. But I find it interesting that math and science and physics allows somebody to have a penny, just one penny, and say, I want 99 pennies. And physics through math allows you to take that one penny that is reality and make it 99 pennies through math. And that's exactly what they do with the Lorentz transform equation. Anytime they lose their ball, or the ball might be going away, they invoke the Lorentz transform equation. 1 to the square root of 1 minus 4c, 4 squared divided by c squared. I think it is. It's in my head. And I think that it might not be exactly right. I'm still memorizing that Lorentz transform equation, and they bring everything back to their ball. And Ruhif is probably the best example that I know of, even though Bryant Myers is pretty good, pretty close to it, of just loving his math to prove his ball.
That's a great comment I just read from Admiral Dickie Bird. Assumption of radius, assumption of solidarity of moon, solidity of moon, assumption of space. Yeah, no assumptions to see here. At the very least, I mean, you have to be assuming the radius, right?
No, you can do it assuming a flat Earth. You'll get a slightly different result. Like it's the difference between like a chord line and an arc length, which is generally not very much. Like between me and New Zealand, and might add an extra 50 k's or something to the baseline. But apart from that, yeah, it's just parallax geometry.
Waterworld, go ahead.
Pretty simple.
By the way, be sure after you get called on to lower your own hand, because it's kind of a pain in the ass for me to pull up the menu.
Sorry. Hey, Ruhef, can you do me a big favor? Because you're kind of like my go-to glober, because we're friends with each other as much as we can be. Can you explain the Lorentz transform equation to me, please?
No, I can't. And I would suggest you learn some fairly basic geometry before you try something difficult.
All I can say is, when it comes to the celestial, when it comes to looking up in the sky, physics tells you have to almost come up with an 89.98, 89.99. You can't obviously go a perfect 90-degree angle, but especially when you measure the sun, you're always dealing in 89.98, 88, 89.99, really close to 90 degrees, and it's almost impossible to do. And then you go into the two body situation, where one piece, acts upon another piece of body as far as gravity. But then when you get into the 3, 4, and 5 body equation, it messes everything up. It messes your gravity all up in the vacuum of outer space. So Ruhef, I appreciate you and all that stuff, but outer space is kind of like, I don't know, a fairy tale.
Yeah. Well, let's get to some definitive claims, right? Some back and forth. Ruhif,
sure.
As a globe claimant, you usually have no problem taking the burden of the positive claim. So what evidence do you have for us today that we can look at, laugh at, or possibly be impressed by?
I probably did this last time I was here, and Jim has for sure seen this. So let's bring up this. And it's just a simple question. Can you share the... Yeah, there we go.
Yep.
It's just a simple question. If I'm on a mountaintop at some elevation and I point my theodolite over to another mountain of known elevation, I can make a prediction for what the angle will be. And I guarantee you, if I ask Jim, he will fucking dissemble and not actually even attempt to give an answer. All right. So this is my current, thing that I'm on is pushing flat earthers to do some really basic geometry. So yeah, Jim, all yours.
I love you guys. I mean, you have so much to work with down here on the good earth. I would call it God's Earth, but I know Ruhif doesn't believe in God, so that's fine. But you always do your theodolites and your total stations, and you look through things to prove your ball. Why don't you just use your eyes? Why don't you use your senses? Why don't you just look out over something? I don't know of one glober, including my friend Ruhif, that doesn't invoke a theodolite or a total station to prove their ball. Why don't you just use your eyes? I have my Nikon P1000 over here that I can stand at 6 feet observation height with it. I don't have to go up anywhere. And I can look across Lake Michigan at Benton Harbor from 62 miles away, which I might do Sunday. And then I will have it on Cosmology, on Monday, and I'll have it on here sometime as long as I can share. My friend, for some reason, all of you globers invoke a theodolite or a total station, and you go up in the air. You go up into some altitude and go, look, we live on a ball. You don't have to do that. All of you do that for some reason, and it's really weird. I mean, it's really weird when all you guys, McToon invokes the theodolite. And FTFE Craig, bless his heart, hope his heart's great, lives 150 years old. He invokes the theodolite. You always invoke a theodolite or a total station. You guys are just kind of like weird with your theodolites. Go look with your eyes, go look with your camera, and look out. And it is a stationary topographical plane. I wish you would get off your theodolites because it's just totally weird. It happens all the time on Cosmology Tartaria. You get all these weirdos who never go on voice chat who throw the theodolite out and it goes, look, we live on a ball. And they did that with Austin, the main surveyor, when they had their little thing 2 hours, about over a year ago. He took out his theodolite and he saw this thing out there, and then he saw another thing beyond it. And because the thing beyond it was smaller than the thing in front of it, he thought, he actually showed a diagram, it was going over the curve. No, perspective, it was further away, and it's smaller when it goes further away. It's called perspective. Anybody who does drawings or paintings, first week of class for drawers or painters, understands perspective. I wish you guys would come back down to earth, look with your eyes, because all of you use a theodolite and you use it to prove your ball, and it's just really weird. I don't know why you do it for. Ruhef, you can't explain the Lorentz transform for me. Why do you guys always use theodolites?
Because they're precision measuring instruments, for number one. You also said, why do we go up on a mountain? And I've got on screen now the refractive gradient. So this will tell you what the refractive conditions will be, either close to the surface or when you're at altitude, right? So the red series on the bottom there, that shows you the variation, like it's on the x-axis of refraction close to the surface. You can't predict refraction close to the surface. All right. If you get above 100 meters, then you'll see that the blue lines are pretty tightly packed. And that's telling you that's a typical gradient. This is the most common gradient. This is a histogram. So the most common is the column that has the highest value. And you'll see that it's pretty tightly packed. And what this says is once you get above the surface, you have a predictable gradient. So you can factor in refraction. Last little point, I'll go back to the, one sec. I'll go back to that. All right. At no point did you get close to even attempting to answer, which is exactly what I predicted. You talk about geometry, but you won't attempt any. The end.
I don't have to talk about that because it's hooey, Ruhef. I don't talk about things that are nonsense other than to say they're nonsense. Ruhef, you cannot predict the refraction above the ground or the refraction above the water even 1 hour ahead of what it's going to happen. Is that true or not?
Well above the surface.
So how can you build a graph when things change hourly, especially they change daily? How can you possibly build a graph? See, Ruhef, here's your problem. I'm not a stupid flirt. So when you throw something at me, I eat your script for dinner, Ruhef, and you cannot predict a refractive index or an element or refraction any more than I can predict that I'm going to be 8 foot tall tomorrow. You can't predict it. And when you throw a graph out like that, that is just total hooey, and I know it. And you cannot predict what happens above the ground, what happens above the water. As you go up, you can't predict it, but you have a graph, just like you have math. Just like you have math, you have a penny, and you use math to get to your 99 cents, even though you don't have your 99 cents. You still have a penny.
Sorry,
you still
speak
have
of
a
math.
penny. So, Ruhef, I eat your script for dinner, and I still like you a lot.
How good's my math t-shirt? Pretty
You're a
good.
good guy. You're a good guy, Ruhef.
How good is my math t-shirt?
I like you, Ruhef. You're a good guy.
What were you saying?
So, Ruhef, I am not going to attempt to answer something as a flat earther and flurf because it's stupid.
Okay. What was I going to say? You kind of just reject the graph out of hand as if you don't really know what it means.
No,
like I can't predict.
Hey, guess what?
Refraction.
I know about graphs. They are predictions. They are not reality. I live in reality. I live using experience and experiments. You live using math and graphs and concepts and models. Sorry, Ruhef, I eat your script for dinner.
Okay, this is a graph of reality. These are real world measurements.
Okay, so if I may interject just for a moment to kind of maybe more articulate what Waterworld is saying, because I actually do, I agree with you, John, but it's really funny because it's really obvious to point out certain things. Like, for example, problem one, when you're talking about doing your theodolite observations, sure, you can do mountain to mountain. A lot of times, like, you're viewing like right over to all the way to the horizon, and especially if we're assuming, like, let's assume it's a ball, right, and that there's this big hump again close to the surface of the Earth, we're going to have more refraction on, as according to the graph. So as the light is passing from the high altitude to the low altitude, because it has to, because of the curve of the Earth, that hump between the observer and the object, obviously there's going to be more refraction, and that's not taken into account anywhere with that graph. Also, that graph is actually, it's a large scale. It says, like, if you go back to it just for a moment.
Well, you kind of said pointing at the horizon, so I wanted to point out that I'm looking from one mountain peak to another mountain peak. We're not getting anywhere near the surface. That's the whole point. But I'll go back to that one. One sec. Where is it? That one. Yeah.
Okay, so with the graph, if you look right at the top, it says 1947 to 1975. So that graph is an average, obviously, of the refractive index between those years. It's not exact. That's exactly what Waterworld was trying to say. That's not reality. It's just a graph of averages.
This is a graph. This one would probably be 1974. If you would like, what did I do these? I did these in 2020, I think. Let's try and find a 2021.
Can we get a, like, what's the earliest like on-demand graph we could get realistically?
The earliest? What do you mean?
Like, if I wanted to go out and do an observation, let's say tomorrow, would I be able to get a graph for that?
Sure, I'd do the most recent year or something. Sure, yeah, whatever your closest airport is.
Sure, that's just one point.
Probably like 2021.
The other point that I was making was that even if it doesn't get all the way to the surface, right? Like, that's like the extreme, right? It going all the way to the surface, right? Like, maybe you're only seeing the tip of the mountain on a ball Earth, right? But again, I'm just humoring the point, right? If we live on a ball, then when you're looking at a mountain, there's going to be a change of elevation between the ground, between you and the mountain, because there's a hump, right? A hump of varying elevation because it's a curve. So it's going to
Right,
go.
but these measurements I'm asking for, the whole point is that the line of sight from the top of the one mountain to the top of the other mountain, the whole line of sight is at least 100 meters above the valley, right? So if I'm sorry, the vast majority of the line of sight is above the surface by at least 100 meters. That's the goal. And those are the measurements that I've taken, and they are very, very close to matching, 7/6 refraction. So it's nothing to do with horizon, nothing to do with close to the surface.
Again, I'm just saying when it comes to looking at your graph and doing general observations, again, you can isolate for that, I'm sure, but with your specific observations, at least the ones that you've showed us, there were particular issues with it. For example, the
Okay.
line like being like right on the on the water. We had Sovereign Soul point that out pretty clearly, and just again, not to take up the time. Waterworld, go ahead.
Thanks. Hey, Ruhef, I've
Yeah.
already gotten permission from Shane and from David to take as much time as I want. After I get done using this little P1000 that I just got about a week ago, and I go up to Benton Harbor, which I might do Sunday, even though it's only going to be 40 degrees. Ruhef, once I get this done and I show everybody from 62 miles away, I want you to be there. I want you to be there because I'm going to go for all sorts of magnification. I'm going to have my vibration, my VR on, so I don't vibrate all over the place. I have a tripod over here, and I'm going to show this to you until you puke. And then I want to hear all the things that you say. And the thing is, Ruhef can never concede to a flat earther. It's blasphemy. So I want to hear every excuse that he has when I show this in an event. I want you to be there, and I want you to tell me how wrong I am. I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome. So Tribune said something about the crosshairs being on the waterline.
Yeah, with one of the observations, they were like slightly on the water line, and that could easily make up for 1 degree. But then there's also the idea. But then there's
No.
also
No.
again, there's also the idea that simply being at an elevation, the higher up you go, would actually drop the line of sight. And I know that it's been, people throw it in a computer model and they say, see, look, it just goes on forever. And it has been claimed by flat earthers for sure that water is, or that the line is always at eye level. But the thing is I tend to think that the horizon does kind of drop away when you go up, and that's because I've done kind of an experiment on my own flat countertop where I would just raise up, and as I'd raise up, the line, the horizon line, I guess you'd call it, of the counter would also lower, just from a simple fact of me rising up. But Waterworld, go ahead.
I know we don't want to beat a dead horse, and I know the last time Ruhef and I got on to troubling couple Sundays ago, we kind of beat a dead horse with that one little light thing that, after Ruhef tried to show me the laser in the sugar water that was bending, he tried to get me to agree on the other thing. So I can just say this: let's don't beat a dead horse. Ruhef, if you don't mind, can you explain to me why your 301-mile stretch of the Trans-Australian Railroad in Australia, where you live, it's kind of like in the middle, maybe a little bit southern part of it, why it goes 301? It's obviously longer than 301 miles, but you have a section that's basically just straight 301 miles, and on your ball, obviously you can't use light or refraction when you're dealing with a railroad. It's not like light. Can you explain to me why you have 301 miles on the Trans-Australian Railroad that is straight, that doesn't bend down over 60,000 feet and 11.42 miles? Can you explain that for me?
Sure. Do railroads go over mountains?
That is a great question. I love that you asked that. Do you know the reason that railroads go through mountains and up around mountains, and they can't go up too high is because the reason they can't go over mountains, they have to go through them or go around and around to get around a mountain, is because they will decouple if they have to go over too much of a hill. That is, gosh, your trains are meant to be able to go back and forth like this. They can go back and forth like this. But if they have to go up over a curve too much, they will decouple and they will go off the tracks. And so, yes, they can go this way, but they can't go. See, Ruhef, when you went, you gave yourself up.
Oh, that's
when you
clearly...
said you gave yourself up when you said over mountains. Ruhef, trains cannot go over mountains. That's why they tunnel through them so they don't have to go over them. Ruhef, you give yourself away too much. You shouldn't do that. Shame on you.
So
Right, what I'm doing,
correct me if I'm wrong, that black line that's on the right-hand side, where is that line supposed to be? Just so I know where the heck it is I'm supposed to be looking at.
it's the top of the building.
So it's supposed to be lined up with exactly the top?
Yeah.
Can you zoom back in?
Yeah.
I mean, I can clearly see the top of the building a little bit over it.
Right.
So, okay, go on.
All right, let's share this. Hold on. How do I change windows? Change what I'm sharing. Can't change the window. All right, I'll stop sharing and reshare something else then. Window, that one. So I've just done a little bit of pixel math. So the distance between the top stadium arc and the bottom stadium arc, I measured as 967 pixels, and that's 10 milliradians, which is half a degree. How much is between 967 times 0.57 degrees? So between those two lines at the cross, it is 0.0088 degrees, which is half an arc minute, or 30 arc seconds. 30 arc seconds. Okay. So the amount of angle between those two lines, 30 arc seconds. Not very much. And not a degree. Not a degree. Oops,
Yes,
switch back to the thing now. Hold on.
I know all about your arc seconds, your arc minutes, your 36,000 it goes actually out to 36 billion. So I know all about your arc seconds. I know all about your arc minutes. I know what you do to manipulate your numbers. So you say it's not even a degree. Ruhef, you backed off of that railroad thing very quickly when I called you out on the fact that that trains cannot go over mountains. You stopped explaining it because I called you out on it. I'm not going to beat a dead horse, but you can't answer the Trans-Australian Railroad, and your only comeback was, don't you know they go over mountains? And then when I explained to you that they can't go over mountains because they might decouple, then you backed off of it. I called your bluff, Ruhef. Thank you for playing.
Okay, I'll answer that in a second, but we're going back like 10 minutes when Troubling said it could be off by a degree. The amount of angle between these two lines is 30 arc seconds. All right, so nowhere near a degree. It's tiny. 30 arc seconds is tiny. It's often measurement error. All right, so that's that. When I go to the snow in Australia, I go to Perisher.
I meant 0.1, not a full degree, but still. I don't know how much how much variation is in 0.1 degree. Not a
0.1 degree.
Yeah, not a full degree of 0.1 because it was 90.1 or whatever the heck it was.
It was 90 and 10 arc minutes there, right? So you know how arc minutes and arc seconds work.
kind of.
Yeah. Okay. So there are 60 arc minutes in a degree, and this is half an arc minute.
Okay,
So it's
that's
1/120th of a degree.
So one
Right, so-
120.
Yeah, 1/120 degrees in between those two lines. So nowhere near a degree.
Hold on
Off
one
by a
second.
factor of 120.
1 second, Waterworld.
Yeah.
You said there's 30 arc seconds in or sorry, 60 arc seconds in a degree.
No, 60 arc seconds in an arc minute and
Okay.
60 arc minutes in a degree.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah.
Waterworld.
So there's, yeah. Oh, he wants me to answer the trains, right?
Yeah, just a second. Then the trains is all yours, my friend. One thing we're going to do. Alan was on this a couple Sundays ago because I was staying in a hotel then that night. But Alan was on with another Globe friend and Ruhef and another guy. And Alan has come out since then with a 63-page PowerPoint that's an hour and a half YouTube that he read off of that very few people know about. He describes arc seconds, arc minutes better than anybody I've ever said. So when Ruhev says it's not even this, it's not even that, I would just say this for Troubling, my friend Troubling, is I'll send it to you on a DM or something. If you haven't seen it already, it's on YouTube, and I got the PowerPoint. And if you could look it over, and maybe the next time we talk, we can talk about Alan's PowerPoint. Plus, we can get him back on because he's really a smart guy, and he's going to make some waves over on Cosmology Tartaria. Thanks.
Okay. Just to put it in perspective, 30 arc seconds is not very much at all. Really small. This is half a degree between this top line and the bottom line is 0.57 of a degree. So yeah, roughly half a degree between those two lines.
Again, my only issue again is, and this is something Waterworld has brought up too. Now you're not the only surveyor that has stepped into this type of debate.
Not a surveyor.
I'm sure you're familiar with the debate that happened between Witsit Gets It and the Lancer. I can't remember his name. Unfortunately, I'm terrible with names.
Main surveyor.
Main surveyor.
Oh,
That's right.
Not aware. I would love to see that.
Yeah, it was pretty good. You'll love it. In any
Was it
case,
recent?
no, it was like what, a year ago?
Yeah, it's just a little over a year ago. If you go to Main Surveyor's YouTube, he still has it up.
So basically, the issue again with the surveying is that you have to throw out all the observations that don't meet, and then anytime again, basically what the logic here is that flat earthers have a whole bunch of observations that don't meet the calculation of what we're supposed to see with the Earth curvature calculator, amount of drop, etc. And yet, you can find some examples, I'm sure you can, and so can flat earthers, of the math actually working out. But that doesn't change the fact that there are tons of examples where the math doesn't. And it does get to the point that, okay, so now we know, we've pretty much had to come to the conclusion that when we're dealing with looking off in the distance, that we're dealing with optical effects because light is bending through this medium of air, or changing direction, or whatever the hell you want to call it. I think changing direction and bending is the same thing. So not to get too off point. So we're basically, again, we're taking a few observations and then we're trying to extrapolate to see the math works always. When the fact is that even other professionals have to admit that, yeah, sometimes it doesn't work and we have to make certain adjustments based on certain assumptions. I mean, is that fair to say?
I'm not aware of surveys just throwing out measurements that don't match, whatever that means. I'm going to need a citation for that. I just checked the Main Surveyor's channel and I can't see a debate there. Was it on some other channel?
It was on Modern Day Debate and Waterworld. Go ahead.
Well, it wasn't on Modern Day Debate. It was another gentleman who did it. It was. I know Austin wasn't married yet, and if you do go, you might have to go back a little ways. But I don't find it on Austin's YouTube channel, and I don't know the guy's name who was the moderator. But yeah, if you go back far enough on Main Surveyor
It's on modern day debate.
It wasn't
No,
on
no.
modern day debate. No.
No, it was. It's Witzer Gets It versus Main Surveyor.
Yeah,
2 years ago.
but it wasn't James. It wasn't modern day debate.
Oh no, it's
and
definitely
so
a modern day debate.
it wasn't on modern day debate. It was some other gentleman who was very nice and very fair.
I'm sure we can get it.
So, what was I going to say? I forgot. It's all yours, Ruhef.
Yeah, I found it on modern day debate. So
Yeah, I thought it was on modern day debate, but hey, it's not the first time I've been wrong.
yeah, so I'll check that out.
Me neither. But I'll look and we'll talk later.
Yeah. So I was going to say about the trains. So trains. When I go to the snow, there's a train from sort of Perisher Valley into the Perisher Mountain, and it gets very steep at times, and it also goes, up and down like this. So trains can handle curves. Not extreme curves, but it can handle. Well, it obviously can handle the curve of the Earth, right? Obviously. The ski tube. There it is. The ski tube. I'll stick that in the chat as well. Where are we?
Ruhif, here's a question that's completely off topic, but I'm curious to know. And this is courtesy of the Andrew B over in the Rokfin. I'm curious to know this as well. If you hold the mainstream belief that men can also give birth to children.
I'm not getting into that. People can decide, what they'd like to be called. I don't give a shit. It's if they want to be called a woman, fine. I'll call her. It doesn't bother me at all.
I can tell by your vocabulary that it's chill. We could call it whatever you want to be called. It doesn't necessarily mean that you are that. But hey, I digress. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just kind of politeness, right? There are some places where they want to put legislation against. You have to call people by their preferred pronouns. Like I'm not in favor of that at all.
Well, good on you.
Yeah, it's just politeness for me. If they want to be called a woman, I don't give a shit. Yeah.
Good on you. A lot of people try to hold just the mainstream party line, so it's good that you're not just just doing that.
Like, like Brenda comes on, right? Brenda comes on, her, she, her, whatever. If someone misgenders her, it's just someone being rude, and you call out them being rude. That's it.
Right. You don't have to arrest them. Waterworld. Go ahead.
So, the mountain thing with the railroads. Explain to me, please, Ruhef. It's basically east to west. It's in the main part, the middle part of Australia. A little.
Whoa! What happened? Meeting ended. Didn't give me any warning. That's hilarious. Okay, well, we'll get right back into it, folks. No worries. No worries at all. That's hilarious that it did me like that. Okay. New meeting. Let's get it started instantly. And whenever this one ends, we'll go ahead and call it a night, guys. We're not going to make it go 5 hours like we do. It's great for watch time, but I don't really need it like that bad. So we'll go ahead and call it after this little bout here if no new Globers jump on. All right. Let's go ahead and copy. All right, just a moment. Let's get it to the chat. First for the YouTube. Boom. All right, let me pin it. Whoop. I'm sure John will be back any moment. Let me go ahead and get this in the Rokfin.
I mean, Jim, right? Jim?
I call him John. I know him by John.
Oh, wow. I thought his name was Jim. We'll ask him in a minute.
Everyone is quite calm today, Nuba. Shout out to Nuba, Andrew B, Lord Byron, all you homies chilling in the chat over there at Rokfin. And then over in YouTube, we have Admiral Dickie Bird, Barry Nelson, F'd Up World, Doug Marber, FE Nation, Admiral Dickie Bird, Dr. Law. Who else here? Three Fingers. Live music. Alrighty.
Yeah, I've only got another 10 minutes. Yeah.
No worries. So I know that because your expertise is in is land surveying, right? Or what is it that you do for a
Shit,
living?
hang on 1 sec. 1 sec.
Sure. And John is back. Welcome back.
Oops.
I have to give Ruhef a shout out if I could for a second. He is so much more fun to talk to than these TikTok Glober clowns. I mean, at least Ruhef is he's just he's just so much more fun to talk to. These TikTok Glober clowns. I'm basically done with TikTok. I'm going to concentrate on Telegram and here and Discord, and then I'm going to try to build this new chapter organization around the world, especially in the United States, that reaches out and looks into the stationary topographical plane. My business cards just came in today, Ruev. I got my business cards that I'm going to hand out around Lake Michigan. I'm the founder of the Lake Michigan chapter of God's Creation up here. So anyway, I just want to give Ruhef a shout out that I enjoy talking to him, and the TikTok people are just a joke. Anyway,
there was a question of whether your name's Jim or John.
It's Jim.
Jim.
And,
Okay, there you
go. Getting back to the Trans-Australian Highway, it's just a little bit above the Air Highway, which I believe is EYRE. It's a little bit north of the Air Highway, which is kind of a famous 90-mile straight highway that should bend 5,400 feet, but it doesn't. And so we have the Trans-Australian Highway, which has nothing to do with mountains, nothing to do with curves, nothing to do with holes through the mountains. It's basically 301 miles straight, and it's supposed to have 60,297 feet of curve, or 11.42 miles of earth curve over that 301 miles. Explain to me why it doesn't, Ruhef.
Did you measure that it doesn't? And if yes, how did you measure that?
It's been measured many, many, many times, Ruhef. I know I have not been to Australia to measure it myself, but you live there. Maybe you can explain to me, while it shows that it's 301 miles, maybe it's 300 miles, maybe it's 302, I don't know. But it's a straight section of railroad, and it's supposed to be over 60,000 feet worth of curve, which is 11.42 miles of curvature, according to a ball of 3,959 miles. Why doesn't it curve?
Did you measure that it doesn't? Like, where are the measurements that show no curve?
See, I'll have you look into this in the next week or two and stuff like that. If you want to look into it, it's great. Don't come back and go, have you measured it yourself? I don't live in your country. I don't live in your place. But there are so many people that have talked about the Air Highway, and so many people have talked about the Trans-Australian Railroad. I just wanted your opinion. If you don't have one, maybe you and I can talk about it again in a week or two. I'll look forward to it. At the same time, we maybe talk about what I see across Lake Michigan from 62 miles. Ruhef, we have so much talking to do. What is it? Is that a 700 or a 900? Or is there a
900?
1,000?
P900, yeah, got it years ago. I'm happy to accept measurements from someone else. Like, you don't have to come down and measure this highway, but are there measurements of flatness for that highway? I want to see them.
I tell you what, when you get on to, or we come back and talk again, or we get on to cosmology, I'll get some people that have documented it. So if that's what you want, that's cool. That's cool.
Cool.
It's all cool with me. So your camera's 1,000, a P1000?
No, P900. Got
That's
it
cool.
like 2017 or something.
Yeah, I found out that I spent $400 more than I had to, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the fact that I have 1,000.
That's good marketing.
Oh, it's got like a 50% higher focal length, right?
Yeah, well, yours has 83, which is awesome, and it's got 2,000 focal length.
Yep.
Mine's got a 125 and a 3,000 focal length.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, so I don't think I need 3,000, but if I get a chance, I'll go 3,000 to Benton Harbor to Chicago just for you.
Thank you. What was I going to do? Share that again. Just for shits and giggles. There you go. I often go into either Tartaria or Geos and just share my screen and share that just to needle.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Needle people.
You've shared it in Shane's server.
Yeah. Yep.
I've seen
because
it.
no one will even attempt. Yeah, I know, but no one attempts it though, right? I mean,
Why should we? It's garbage.
Why would we?
It's a geometry question.
It's a garbage. It's a garbage question.
Isn't the shape of the Earth a geometry question?
No, it's a visual experience question. Ruhef, you just proved my point. We don't live on a ball because of math or geometry. We live on a stationary topographical plane because that's what we observe and experience. We don't do math to determine we live on a ball, Ruhef. I know I'm not going to change your mind, but we don't live on a ball. We don't do math to explain we live on a ball. We experience it, we observe it, we see it with our own eyes, and if we need a little bit of help, we'll use this little puppy. Ruhef, you are so much fun. Yeah. I like you so much more than the TikTok Globers. I can't explain it enough.
Yeah, the TikTok Globers, they just ask us those dumb questions over and over again, like, are we a flying space pizza? Are we the only flat planet? Boring straw man after boring straw man. At least you're trying to make like a solid point, right? But the thing is that I think that your point, the reason why, your point's kind of getting lost on us is because we aren't on the assumption that the way that we see off in the distance is simply geometry, right? Geometry is just one aspect of what's going on, right? Whether it's flat or a ball, we're dealing with refraction, we're dealing with light bending through this medium that we have of atmos or atmosphere. And I know that you can say that, well, we can limit that observation by going up higher. We're talking about, how far of a distance do you have to look? I guess that's another question, right? I will often end it with a question because I'm actually trying to learn a little bit more and build a stronger position later on. But it's like, how far do you have to look to expect to see that little bit of drop, when you're starting to see it not be quite 90 degrees? That's the horizon, isn't it?
No, this question is not the horizon, but we can do the horizon if you want. The key line for you guys is at the bottom. If I can make an accurate prediction, but you cannot, is it fair to conclude that I know something you don't? If I can predict the lotto numbers.
Ruhef,
we can. It's just that.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say. I mean, we totally could, and we could go out and make an observation over and over again until we make sure that it matches. Make sure it's sharpshooter. But we don't do that, and the reason why we don't is because we know that the way that we see in the distance have a whole bunch of optical factors. It wouldn't actually prove anything. When we do go out and do long distance observations, you guys simply come back with, well, there's some optical phenomena going on that's allowing us to have that observation. So why in the hell would we go out and then just do it until we verify what you want us to verify, right? So
I'll go out and
basically
like this line says, make any assumptions about the atmosphere that you require or any other assumptions that you believe are required to calculate this angle. So make an assumption based on a typical atmosphere. Make a prediction. Rather than coming back with just words, make a prediction.
Ruhef, there is no typical atmosphere. things change over time. So when you say things like typical atmosphere, you show me a graph and you tell me about math and geometry, I'm going, Bruhef, if you want to live in that world that you prove your ball because of math and geometry and what ifs and thus like, if you want to live in that world, that's fine. My world is now Lake Michigan. It is Benton Harbor, a few miles north so I can see Milwaukee, all the way south through Gary up to Chicago. I'm going to look at Benton Harbor and its hotels from 62 miles away on the beaches of Chicago. No 1,450 feet Sears Tower that I'm going to be able to see. I am going to be probably going to be able to see a 3 or 4 story, 30, 40 foot Benton Harbor hotel. And Ruhef, when I do, I am going to make sure that you see it, and I want you to explain it away because I so respect your answers.
Excellent. All right, one last thing. The graph on the screen tells you the fact that these blue lines are bunched up
It
tells you that
doesn't
there
tell us
is
anything, Ruhef.
it tells you that there is a typical atmosphere.
It tells us it's a graph, Ruhef.
Okay.
It's a
All right.
graph.
It's a graph.
GRAPH. It's a graph. Your side has done this with global warming since I don't know when. They've shown us graphs about global warming till we go, blue in the face because we don't want to listen to it anymore. There is no globe, so you can't have global warming without a globe. So we've seen your graphs about global warming for I don't know how long. I'm tired of it. I'm calling you out on it. You talk about it, but I don't care because there is no such thing as global warming. There is no evidence of it. Even if we lived on a globe, there's no evidence of it, but we don't live on a globe. So Ruhef, do your graphs, do your GRAPH, do your geometry, do your math to prove what you want to prove. But I'm going to prove it with my eyes, and I'm going to prove it with this, Ruhef. And Ruhef will be one of those that will say, no way, refraction. Chicago is over the ball, but refraction brings it up just perfectly enough that I can see it as if I was on a level plane. And that's okay, Ruhef, because you're predictable. I really like you, Ruhef.
Okay. On that note, I have to go. Thanks
Hey,
again,
thanks.
Troubling. If you're online in the next 2 hours, which is unlikely, I'll be back. But yeah. All right.
I definitely
Hey,
won't
you're
be,
the-
but
A
thanks.
typical gradient. The typical gradients on the screen. All right.
Ruhef, you are the most fun glober to talk to.
1 second, hold on. I think I have something for that.
I hope I followed all your rules. I interrupted him one time. I apologize.
Let's see how well this works. Not very well. Oh, that's funny. It took forever, and then it wanted to cut. Okay. Got a soundboard I'm playing with. It should be pretty fun when I get that all figured out. I don't want to boo him, though. The thing is like, I see a lot of people in the comments like, oh, he's proven liar, proven troll, proven shill. Why even have him on? You got to get other Globers on. And it's like, listen, right now, he's the only Glober that's coming on, right? That's just the sad reality of it, right? So if you guys want to see more Globers, then I'm going to need you. I implore you to share the show. Get your Globy friends on this panel. That way we can have some more conversations, get some more evidences, maybe even get some PhDs on here so we can have fair and calm, conversations. But it is what it is. He is calm. He is polite. He
is.
So he actually is good to hold a conversation with. Despite what you may think about what he believes. And, just so that everybody knows where I think about it, I don't think he's a paid shill. I think that he believes what he believes. And I think that he takes, a lot of measurements with a lot of assumptions behind it that, have worked for him. So he tends to think that because of this firsthand knowledge, that this means that the earth has to be, the ball and that we're all dumb. But we just disagree, right? He's completely looking past, he keeps on showing us the graph of the typical atmosphere. It's like, what about global warming, right? You're showing us the gradient from, and it's literally a graph. It says from 19. It's a graph of like 20 years since from 1974. Why not show us a graph of something current, that we can actually work with? But anyway, I digress. So, uh, Jim Waterworld, I actually didn't want to keep this going too much longer, so him hopping off was actually pretty good timing. I only want to go like 2 hours, 2.5 hours or so. What do you have coming up, my friend?
Oh, I got, I'm reaching out to people on platforms that I've been on for a little over a year, and I'm asking them to start their local chapters or their state chapters for God's creation of the ground we walk on. And so, I took the first step, and you maybe seen my little picture of looking across the Chicago, and it says, Lake Michigan chapter of God's creation. And so I'm asking people. I have somebody in Amsterdam who is interested, somebody in Eastern France who's interested. I have somebody down in Florida who's interested, and I've only been doing this 3 days. So, I want to get 75 people in time to be able to go out and do this grassroots movement. And we can talk on Telegram. We can actually bring some of them on here if you want to and talk about it. But the Telegram, you can put as many people as you want to in the video, in the live video, and then you can put as many people down below as you want to. It's not like Discord, which has quite a few limitations. So that's what I got going on. Plus, I have a debate coming up a week from Friday with a Glober, and then Saturday on Tartaria, germ versus terrain. So a globe flat one on Friday the 3rd, and then a terrain germ on the 4th. So
Very
fun.
cool. Very cool. Andrew B, welcome to the show, man. Thanks for popping on.
Oh, thank you very much. I am very late. I apologize.
Oh, you're
Hey,
all
Andrew,
right.
how you doing?
Wonderful. I was wanting to talk to Ruhif, but I was driving, so I couldn't really.
Yeah, you can always shut off your camera and be dangerous about it, but
I'm not going to do that.
I'm just kidding. I don't recommend anybody do that, obviously. Sorry, I just keep looking over, checking the chat. Every time I click off of this page, because I haven't figured this out quite yet, I have, it blocks out the screen, so I'm trying to check the chat without doing that. But anyway, yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I'm really, really excited. I can't tell you how excited I am to have the opportunity to defeat such a legend in the truther community, True Earth community. Was definitely paying close attention to the trivia. So, very excited.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun one the next time. It's going to be after the next summit that Jaron and Austin are doing. So I think you've got a hell of a uphill battle for that one.
You think I'm going to lose?
I didn't say that.
I'm just messing with you. That's going to be awesome.
Hey, Andrew, do you know who the people? Austin said he had one opening left, and I think he was trying to fill it with a medical person, a health person. Do you know who's all going to be there for the summit too? I guess it's late March, early April. Do you know who's there?
I have a little bit of inside knowledge to that, but I'm not sure if I am allowed to give that information out.
Well, that's fair enough. Thanks. No problem.
Yeah, I'm expecting some super intense questions, things that we've never even thought about. Real fringe stuff. That way we really get the cream of the crop there for the championship round. Yeah, you're not the only person who's late. Question the answers just got here a few minutes ago, apparently. That's awesome. Well, whenever the show ends here in a bit, feel free to go back to the beginning and check out the whole kit and caboodle. Yeah, lately I've just been... So there's always so much research that you can do, but because of the recent upturn in religious content that's been going on, I've turned my focus a little bit towards researching the Bible once again in case there was something that I've missed as far as like what it says. And not that I believe it just because I missed a thing or two, but I just always like to be able to effectively talk to somebody who does believe every single the word of it as gospel. And I've pointed out a few things in Witsit's group chat over in the Telegram that haven't been answered, but I'm kind of waiting on that. But I also got pointed towards something from Witsit that was like, "Hey, here's something that shows shows some people taking out some things here in the Old Testament that you didn't know about." And I was like, "Really?" And I actually didn't know about it, so I was pretty intrigued there. But yeah, so I've turned my focus a little bit to that. So I had a little bit less research done here on the True Earth perspective, but I am excited to be digging back into that. I'm wanting to learn more about this ether drag and some of the effects that people have lesser known things that people have been measuring with that, seeing if we can draw some conclusions on celestial movements and things of that nature. But it's gonna take a little time. That's like a whole bunch of people working on that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I love the. I opened up the Bible after I became a stationary topographical plane person and a viruses don't exist person. I actually then opened up the Bible about 11 months ago, read Genesis, and found out Genesis even told me viruses don't exist, and they told me we don't live on a spinning ball, and they told me evolution is debunked in the very first 31 verses of the first chapter of the book. And then you dig through it for even further, and then you obviously the Bible doesn't call it flat, which that's why I don't want to be called a flat earther. And you have earth or land coming out of the water, and so I don't want to be called an earther, so I'm not a flat earther. So but I found the Bible is fascinating when it comes to foundations, pillars, ends of the earth, circle of the earth, four corners of the earth, all those things that are not present on a ball. And I just find it fascinating that Christians, and some of us know Matthew Learns, and a lot of us know McToon, unfortunately, and all both of them say they're Christians, and they say the Bible is very specific that we live on a ball, and that couldn't be further from the truth. Just unbelievable that somebody can look at the Bible, other than the Douay Rheims, which is the Jesuit Bible from 1610, and say they live on a ball. There's just no way. I don't understand it, but who knows?
I'm seeing some excellent.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Andrew. Go ahead.
Yeah, the Bible's a weird thing to talk about when it comes to theology and versus the Bible versus the Quran versus different types of things like that. And what Ruhif is obviously against is theology and creation and flat Earth. So it's a weird but interesting concept to bring up when it comes to speaking with people like that.
Yeah, it's.
I don't think Ruhif has any real. I think he's very, very wrong.
Yeah, I put together. Go ahead, Trebling.
Sure. You definitely hold that thought though. It sounded like it was going to be good. I do try to stay away from the just because of rules of politics, I guess rules of warfare. I tend not to play into like the politics of is he genuine or not. We can just kind of look at the claims and compare them. The best way to figure out if someone is completely genuine is to basically show somebody something that's completely and utterly undeniable that you cannot wiggle out of, regardless of the explanation. For example, I have a blue background behind me. Unless you're colorblind of some capacity, you should agree with me on that. That's objective reality. There's nothing subjective about that. It's blue behind me, predominantly. I know there's some other colors, but you know what I mean. When you have something that's objective that you can show somebody, that's like, hey, boom, you can't argue it. So the problem is that when you're dealing with things like vast numbers in general, right? It doesn't even matter what it is. When you're dealing with big numbers, there's always room to obfuscate and leave room to tweak it to where it works out in your favor for your model. So it really doesn't matter when it comes to this thing in particular. I wonder if it matters at all what we show as far as like how far we can see what the light's supposed to be doing with the inverse square law, the gas chamber and the vacuum. They may end up leaving that point because it's so obvious. They may end up leaving that within maybe a generation or so and moving on to something else like and they kind of already have a little bit with this idea of dark matter uh basically fills the vacuum of space, right? It's not really a vacuum if you have something like dark matter in there. So maybe they're already starting to slowly bring in the idea that it's something solid. I do want to take a brief moment to mention I did see it looks like there's a Glober in the chat. Hey, I posted a link. Feel free to join up if you have some points, some questions. Feel free to come on up. We're trying to diversify this show. So far, it's just been Ruhif and Adam Everest. So we appreciate anybody. Yeah, we appreciate anybody who wants to come on and have the conversation. As far as like how exactly the flat Earth works, we don't have all the answers.
But I have a question for Skylar and Waterworld. John, is that right?
It's Jim. Go ahead, Andrew.
Jim. Okay. So this is a question that I've been asked quite a few times by different people. What level of evidence would it require for you, me, or Skylar, anybody, to accept that the globe is actually real, aside from what Ruhiv is presenting, or anybody else?
I think I'm 64 years old. I know I look 34. I'm just kidding, but I'm 64 years old, and I got my telescope when I was 10. My parents got it for me. I went out and looked at the moon because our backyard was in the south. I fell in love with astronomy. I went to college. I knew like 25 constellations. The Earth science professor wanted to have his students know 10 constellations, so he had me meet people outside at night because he didn't want to go out and do it, and I did it for him. I loved my outer space. I love Star Trek, Captain Kirk. So I can't go back because I had every reason to stay with the ball. And if it wasn't for COVID, realizing COVID was COVID and that the SARS-CoV-2 virus doesn't exist and that viruses are not what they are, and guess what? They don't even exist. If it wasn't for SARS-CoV-2 in March 17, 2020, when my ex-Orange idol lied to me in the Rose Garden, I would still be a Glober today. I would still be a Globe believer. I would have voted for Trump in 2020 instead of not voting for the first time since 1980, and I would still be a proud patriot of MAGA, Make America Great Again, the American flag. And so, but all those three things I've given up. And so there's no way I can go back because I was there for 97% of my life.
So, as far as like my answer for it, and I'm still pretty young, right? I'm only 29. I'm growing. I always think that
That's it? Really?
Yeah, I know, right?
He's a youngster.
I'm a youngster. I'm a young buck, right? Supposed to have tons of energy. Kids sap it out of you. Just kidding.
They do.
In any case, here's what I think. I think that as far as like hardcore conclusive evidence, there's a few things that can happen. Number one, if we got consistent 100% measurements of the gradient that we could make an accurate prediction with 100% of the time with, which I know we don't have. But if we had that, and we could show that, look, this is the prediction, and this is the way the geometry works, and this is how we know that the geometry only works this way. If you could clear all those borders, then you can convince me of curvature. If you can clear all those borders. But with the evidence that's out, you definitely can't convince me of motion or that we're not the center. Because all the experimentation that we've ever done has 100% shown that. So geocentrism is like unarguable in my opinion. It would take a complete rework of scientific technology and private engineering, which I don't see happening, and then new results coming from new experiments that I can't even conceive of to convince me of that. Um, and it wouldn't be able to come from the powers that be, right? It wouldn't be able to come from like a government funded science group. It would have to come from an independent research group, probably a truth community. Honestly, as biased as that sounds, if a private group came together, a bunch of individuals trying to figure something out, and they came to the conclusion, or came to that conclusion, then maybe I can accept motion. But the fact that they don't, they haven't, gone out and verified the refraction claims. The fact that Ruhif is up, like, I'm not dumb, right? The fact that Ruhif is literally showing me a graph that's from 1974, and it's a graph of averages, right? It tells me that it's obviously something would be wrong if they showed us the graph of today. It's not going to be the same. Everybody's talking about like how things change over time, how the environment changes, and yet we're supposed to sit here and believe that we have the same refractive index as in the 1970s. Come on. So there's just all kinds
Yeah,
of
I
problems
wanted
with
to
it.
chime in when Ruhif was talking about that. I couldn't really watch it very much. But when you show a graph, just like Jim was saying, it's just a fucking graph. I can create a graph on anything. It doesn't mean it's real. I mean, where did the stats come from? Like, can you prove it?
Yeah,
Or can I just create it?
his level of evidence that he wants us to accept in the face of this vast conspiracy that we're dealing with is his photograph with a crosshair on it, right? Which you could place. You could literally place that after the fact, and you wouldn't be able to tell. I certainly wouldn't be able to. I'm not an expert in Photoshop and cameras and shit. So you could do that and probably trick 99% of people, maybe 100%, depending on how it actually works. And then even if it is a real picture, right? All those issues with the atmosphere, with us not knowing the actual gradient, and he's just going to show a graph, right? So it's literally just a crosshair and a graph that he shows us, and is like, this is it, right? And the fact that I can do this and show you this means that I know the Earth is a ball, right? No, unfortunately, it doesn't. We're going to need a little bit more than that.
See, Austin made. Sorry to interrupt. Austin said, you can take a penny and have physics, math, geometry make it into 99 cents. I mean, you have a penny in reality, but math can make it 99 cents. And if you think about that, if you go with the Lorentz transform equation, which, forgive me if I don't say it right, it's 1 to the square root of 1 minus VC divided by C V squared divided by C squared, speed of light. And whenever they get away from their ball, whenever they start losing their ball, that equation automatically takes them back to their ball using math, not observation or experience or experiments. That equation alone takes them back to their ball. And the other thing, to answer your question, Andrew, if I went out, I got this about 10 days ago. It's a P1000. If I went out to, and I live 38 miles from Benton Harbor, 62 miles across to Chicago. If I went out at 6 feet observation height or 30 feet observation height and could not see Chicago, then I might go back to my ball. But I have a pretty good idea, because from 40 miles, I've already gone out to the pier on Michigan City, because that's where I live, and I've seen Chicago. So from another 22, 25 miles away, with this nice little gadget here with my tripod over here, I'm going to see Chicago, and I'm going to throw it down Ruhef's throat, and he'll deny it because of refraction. But we're going to have fun with this. It's fun. I've learned about this one in 2 weeks, so I'm looking forward to it. You don't need a 1000. A P900 is just fine. But anyway.
Yeah, I've got a P900.
Yeah, P900s. I look at all these reviews on YouTube, and the P900's 83. This is at 125, and the P900 is 2,000, and this is 3,000. I'm going. I looked at this through 1,500 a few days back. It's like I'm never going to do more than 1,500. Never. I'm never going to use 2,000 plus. But anyway, so yeah, I could have saved $400 and got 900, but oh well.
Oh yeah, I hear you on that one. I spent way too much on mine.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So yeah, so do you Andrew, do you take your 900 out and prove your stationary topographical plane from time to time?
Often.
May I ask what part of the country you live in?
I live in Silicon Valley in California.
Oh, okay, great. That's
San Jose.
awesome. That's awesome.
So I can go out to Santa Cruz, which is about 30 minutes from me.
Mm-hmm.
So I can go out where Jaron has done a lot of his observations as well. And I've done observations all the way across the entire bay. And on clear days, you can see really, really far.
Yeah. With your 900, you can do. Actually, all you need is a 900. You don't need 1,000. A 900.
And I've done this with friends as well. And even though Ruhif thinks that lasers are irrelevant, which is just mind-boggling to me, I don't know why he would think that a laser is irrelevant when it comes to being able to see it. I've done that as well across very long distances, and we can see it. Jaron has done the same thing in the same area. So I don't know. It just seems like the Earth curvature calculator, unless the Earth curve calculator is wrong, then there's something going on.
Yeah, I would. This is a really funny comment I just read. Going back to the globe is like going back to thinking Santa Claus is real. You're 100% right. You know,
Yeah.
and it's not like I couldn't be convinced, right? I mean, come on. If I actually saw Santa in my house on Christmas, delivering gifts, and then I saw him like poof off in magic, you know, and fly on a magic sleigh, I might be compelled to think it might be real. But even then, I'd still be pretty skeptical. So
I have.
Oh, there's Santa Claus.
I have a model of Santa Claus. It must be real. I have a model of the Easter Bunny. It must be real.
well, kids go out.
Anyway.
How do kids find the eggs, dude? Come on.
Who was
Oh,
that
my
Globey
goodness.
that was going to pop in?
They didn't pop in. They just had some questions about how the flat Earth model worked. So I just did the. Hold on, let me find him real quick. Who was it? Let's call him out. See if we can get him in. Michael Smith. How do you model a flat Earth? Why is it everything that is actually necessary for us to do complex things and have complex systems like satellites and airplanes and navigations is... Where's the rest of the thing? Did he not finish it? He didn't finish the thing. All right. My guess is they were going to say something like, how come all that stuff is dependent on the globe? Oh, there it is. Works for a sphere or Earth and not a flat plane, right? I guess we can go ahead and address that question, since they're not going to jump on. Michael Smith, just know, if you're not having computer issues or something like that, I think you're a coward. But
I would agree.
I think I listen a lot to Austin. I started listening to Austin last September. I didn't really know who he was until like August, and I this crazy guy who went around the United States talking about flat Earth in front of people he didn't know about. He didn't know. But anyway, he said 99% of everything that happens on the terrestrial on the Earth is the same for the globe or for the stationary topographical plane. 99% is the same. The only difference is when you go into outer space, which we know doesn't exist.
we lost your
That
sound.
was like a world breaker for me when I found out, like, oh my God, it can't exist? God, my mind was fucking ruined for at least a month.
I want to get I want to get Icon Science that to explain that bullshit that he told me in that AMA, especially with the diagram. That was a
Yeah, I
low
completely
blow.
missed that stream, dude. I'm gonna have to go back and watch it.
I mean, you didn't miss much because I didn't take a challenging position because I wanted him to throw everything out there, um, no holds bars. So I didn't challenge anything. I just asked questions, and he said some shit that really didn't make sense to me. That I'd like to definitely go back over with him. But one of the things was actually brought up on Jaronism's channel, was the gas pressure gradient. We were talking about how that would work, next to the vacuum of space. And basically, he pulls up this diagram that's like, oh, here's a diagram, and it's in paint, obviously, right? And it's like, here's our particles. Now let's add the gravity, and you see the particles like are now denser. It's like this forms the he's basically acting like this is what's causing the density gradient is the gravity, and then opens the top up and says, see, the particles aren't flying out, so they would just kind of gradually leak out because it's about momentum. And I wanted to ask is like, yeah, but that's, or I wanted to say, but that's not what we see in reality, right? If we have a pressurized container inside an unpressurized container, or sorry, not unpressurized, but inside a vacuum, then what happens when that container is breached is everything inside that container explodes out. It's ridiculous. This is what we see. It happens violently. It happens quickly, and yet he wants us to believe that that's not how it happens. And it's no wonder, because they need us to believe that in order for them not to have to concede the atmosphere issue. It's obviously, you're right on the money.
I agree.
The
Yeah.
space can't exist the way that they say it does, with it being a vacuum. The gas would leave.
Well, I can't remember who said it, but with mathematics, and I'm not bad with math, so don't get me wrong with this, but when it comes to math, you can explain anything. You can explain the mathematical calculations for Santa Claus if you want to.
How fast would he have to
and
hit each house?
and they often do on Christmas Eve with the radar and NASA, right?
Look, there he is, tracking him, the NASA tracker.
He's over Michigan.
Could you imagine?
Can you
All
imagine
right, Scarlett, I'm going to get going. I'm going to send you a message on Telegram because I want to challenge you to a game of chess, if you don't mind.
Heck yeah, man. I'm down. That sounds fun
Cool,
as hell.
cool. On chess.com. It's a free account, so I'm going to send you... I'm not sure if I need your email or whatever, but I'll send you a message. All right?
Will do, man. Appreciate you coming on.
Cool, cool. Thank you very much.
Nice
And
to
Jim,
see you,
thank you very
Andrew.
much.
What was that last thing you said?
It was nice to see Andrew.
Alrighty, we appreciate you coming on. We're probably about to wrap this up ourselves. It's 12:52. Yeah, 2.5 hours sounds like a good time. Appreciate everybody coming on. Jim, got any final words, thoughts, anything else you want to say?
Thanks for having me on. I enjoy it. I'm trying to since I've gotten up here to Michigan City, I'm trying to put 8-hour days. I used to do 2 to 4 hours a day on viruses and the shape of the earth for the last year and a half. Now this is like my second day. I've done an 8-hour day with viruses and shape of the earth. So I'm trying to do this full time, maybe monetize it, somewhere along the line. So I will definitely be talking to you on Telegram and talking to you here and any place else you'll let me.
Yeah, absolutely. Appreciate you coming on, Jim. Go ahead and just one last thing I wanted to do here. I'm going to go ahead and end the call. Jim, we'll catch you next time.
Hey, you take care, Trebling. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Absolutely. All right. Go ahead and leave that, guys. I'll be right there. Give you that little diagram there. All right. Where are we at? Camera is back. Chat is flooded. Awesome. Appreciate everybody tuning in. I wanted to do a final shout out and as well as check one final thing. Now, that's actually something I'm going to save for next time. No worries. It's late as hell. All right, let's do a final shout out and let's get the heck on out of here, folks. I appreciate you all tuning in. Barry Nelson. Hold on. Oh, my goodness, this chat's blowing up. Needed to stop. All right. Daryl Patton, QTA, question the answers. Matthew Shits, long time listener there. By the way, the sunsets are getting big here as well. Every time I see the sunset over here in Florida, it's huge. So that's definitely pretty cool. All right. We also have Infy. This will be available later as a rewatch, so feel free to watch it there. Hop into the next panel. I'm going to be doing these weekly. So I'm actually going to come out with a schedule tomorrow for everybody. So be staying tuned for that. If you haven't already, check out the Discord and the Telegram. Mods, if anybody wants to drop that, I appreciate it. I don't feel like doing it. Okay. Jeremy Bird, we really appreciate you. Huge donation earlier. Daryl Patton, we already announced you, my friend. Let me see here. FE Nation, Dr. Law. All right, if there's anybody I'm forgetting, I apologize. This chat is too thick. Obviously, Admiral Dickie Bird. Okay, and then on to the Rokfin, Kalen Seymour. What is up? Nuba. Good night, my friend Ronald. All you need to understand the force vector calculation is describing a force direction. The equation doesn't need numbers to know what it describes. At the end, pole angular velocity is 90 degrees to gravity, unopposed. All water would leave pole to the equator. Great point, Ronald Layton. All right. Andrew B., of course, Lord Byron. I believe that is everyone for... Oh, and of course, Harmon. We appreciate you for the $5 tip. If that's the same Harmon that was on earlier, hopped off when Ruhif hopped on. That's probably because he didn't want to deal with the Globe Troll. That's fine. To each their own. We definitely appreciate you coming on and chatting it up anyway. Oop, got a little bit of reverb. All right, guys. I think that about does it. Let me go ahead and ramble on for just a moment while I pull up some freaking music. And we'll go ahead and close on out, folks. Be sure to check out the full show if you were just joining us, because we are wrapping it up. Check us out on Rokfin. Check us out on YouTube. Check us out on the TikTok. We have done a little bit less of the True Earth debates over on TikTok because, again, the vast amount of trolls and bots over there. But we do still do it for the people, for the lost soldiers over there. We will find you, and we will get everybody in the same place. So, folks, feel free to share the channel. Go ahead and let this play out. Appreciate you guys. I will see you next time.